To build the pop-up Christmas tree circuit, you'll need the template on green, an extra piece of red or other colored cardstock, a Sharpie, copper tape, 3 LEDs and a button battery, scissors, and optionally a paper slicer. We start by trimming 1 inch from the top of the template and 1/2 inch from both sides. That will give us a nice border. Now we're all done with the paper cutter. Our next step is to fold the paper in half along this dashed line. Should land right in the middle. We'll make that crease, and we'll do it on the other side as well. Now that we have that crease, we're going to cut along these branches just up to the next dash lines. This will make our 4 segments. Now that we've got those 4 cut, we're going to fold it along that dashed line. And this will create the pop-up Christmas tree. The instructions, of course, are on the back of the template, and the cardstock that is nice and green will be what's visible. After we have it folded one way, let's make that crease on the other direction as well. And then what I like to do next is open this up, fold that center crease back, and then you can see here the triangle of where the Christmas tree will be. The next task will be to add the copper tape. So with this, the way that the copper tape works is one side is conductive and the other side is adhesive. And if the conductive side, the copper side, touches another piece of copper tape that's just adhesive, they won't conduct electricity. So for example, if I take this piece of copper tape and just stick it on top, the adhesive that's on the back side of this top piece is an insulator and won't allow the electricity to flow. So we have to be careful with this and how we place our copper tape along these gray lines throughout the circuit. The way I like to show this to students is with 2-sided paper. So assuming here that the 2-sided paper has one side that is copper, so it's conductive, and the other side is adhesive, we know that we can't just layer the copper tape on top of another piece. We need copper touching copper, but we also don't want adhesive up. So there's a clever way to do it, and I quote Lightning McQueen on this: it's turn right to go left. So let's suppose we have, where's a left fold? Something like, oh, let's just suppose we're doing this fold here. The copper tape is running this way, and then we want it to start heading down. In order for the copper tape to be folded the right way, that it's conductive and it doesn't have the adhesive on top, if we were just to fold it downward, that would just reveal the adhesive on top, and that would just be a mess having the adhesive at top. It would stick to everything. So instead what we do is the stretch here, we take the copper tape, we fold it the opposite way, exposing the adhesive, and then folding it back on itself. and that way the electricity can still flow and we don't have the adhesive coming up. So like Lightning McQueen said, if you want to go left, let's say we wanted to go turn this left, we wouldn't just turn it left because that would expose adhesive. Instead, we turn right to go left, and we just fold it back on top of itself. So we'll do that here with all of this copper tape. I like to have the students measure out how much tape they'll need, so they actually practice this before unraveling the backing. So we want to go up, we're going to fold this down and then back over itself, and we can keep this one piece of copper tape going. If we want to go right, we must first go left and then back over itself. And this is about how much copper tape we need. I also suggest to the students that they only reveal a little bit of the backing at a time so it doesn't get all tangled. If it is a little bit off of the lines, it's no big deal. So our first turn, we want to go up. So instead of going up, we'll go down first. And then I'll just remove this so it's easier to see. And then since we're going down first, we're going to fold it back over itself to go up. And just revealing a little bit of that backing at a time. And then we're at the next point where we need to turn. We want the copper tape to go right, so we first have it go left. I'm just going to pinch it down and then fold it over itself. So if I'm just using a finger to press it down while you're folding it over helps a bunch. If it goes a little bit longer, that's no big deal. I'll just trim it. So we'll do the same thing for this other long stretch of copper tape. First, I'll lay it out to measure how much I need. If I want to go down, I first go up and then fold it back over itself. This is good practice for the students. If I want to go right, I first go left and then fold it back over itself. And this is about how much we need. So just rip that with your big muscles and we carry on. So instead of going down right away, we'll head up. Use the finger to keep it secured down as we remove the backing, and then we want it to go right, so we first bring it left and then we fold over itself. That's all we need here. Not my best fold, but it should do. So now we have these short pieces. With these connections, it's like we have this copper wire again, and the red side being the copper, and we want to connect to it. We can't just take another piece of tape and lay it on top here, because then we would have adhesive hot side next to the copper, and that insulates, that won't allow the electricity to flow. So instead, what we'll do with each piece of tape is we'll just measure a bit extra and fold it on itself, and then we'll tape that down with a little bit of clear tape. So when I'm doing this, I measure it just a little bit longer, maybe a centimeter longer. And then with that extra centimeter, I take that and fold it over itself. And then where it's folded over itself, it will touch the other wire That way it will conduct. And I didn't quite need that much. There we go. I'll finish all of these and then I'll tape them all down. So measure a bit longer. Use the excess to fold over itself. This is the part that's going to touch the existing wire. So we lay that on top. And that'll be a good connection. 2 more of those. And then we'll take them down to secure them, and we have 1 more piece of circuit left to do after that. The last thing we need is a way to basically make a switch. So we'll have our battery with the smooth positive side down here, and we can secure that, but we need a connection between the copper tape here and here. One option you have is to use a brass fastener or a split pin. If that's just not available, another great option is just to make a little roll of copper tape. So just taking a small piece like this and folding it over itself so that the adhesive side is covered with itself, and then it will be conductive on both sides. Just nice. And then what we can do here is just tape that down. And this is something that we can press in order to light up the circuit. So just adding that little roll of copper tape can lift it up, and the circuit is not powered, or press it down and the circuit will be powered. Now we are all done with the copper tape. That's the trickiest part. The next part is to get 3 LEDs. Here we go. Make sure that they work first. If you're doing this with students, they'll recognize that the long end, the long leg, goes on the positive side of the battery. Now, once they start bending the legs, it can be tricky to remember which leg was the long leg. So what I would recommend you do is have them use a Sharpie to color just the long leg. That'll be the positive one. I'll let that sit. It can dry on there because those are just the instructions that are on the back anyway. Color in that leg. We'll remember that all of the long legs are the ones that have been colored with the Sharpie. Next, we'll need to poke holes for the LEDs to shine through. So do this carefully. I'm going to do it with scissors, but I'm pretty good with this. Now we're done with the scissors as well. So we'll take each LED, flip this card around, and poke just the legs through, and that will make the front of the card look more polished than if we had poked it from behind and make the hole larger. So right now it doesn't matter whether the long leg is on the top or the bottom. We'll look at it when it's on the other side. Beautiful. So let's take it now onto the other side. Remember, we had all of the long legs were colored to be positive, and down here we're going to have the positive end of the battery. So tracing this out, this whole chain here is positive, and this whole section here is negative. So when we bend the legs here, we want to bend the leg that is colored so that it sits nicely on the positive. You can be pretty forceful with these LED legs, and they will bend to your will. What I recommend for this is, because some of these sections are shorter than the legs are long, we can bend the legs twice so they get a really nice connection onto the wire. So if you see the leg extending off, you can just bend it back onto that copper tape, and then we will use a small piece of tape just to secure those in place. Just a little bit of extra tape there that I don't want. We'll do the same thing here. The long leg is the positive one here. That one's colored, so we'll bend them down, and then we can bend this at a 90-degree angle so it stays nicely on the copper tape. So we want a good connection, so press the tape down firmly, and then we've got one more to go. I'm just going to turn that LED a bit, bend the colored leg down, because I know that one was positive. It's such a good tactic so that you don't have to keep going back and testing them on the LED to know which side is positive, which side's negative. Just color the positive end. One here. Tape that down and make those connections really tight. And then the moment of truth, we'll add our battery. Push down the tape loop, that's our switch. I'll just flip this over. Flip it over first. Sorry, I dropped the battery. It's very difficult, it's upside down. Here we go, there. Now I've got them showing off here. I've got my 3 lights. You can use different colored lights. Just some voltages of lights work well together and some don't. For example, in a set that I have, I can use red and yellow together. That's fine. I can use green and white and blue together, but I can't use red and blue together. So this is mostly done now. The last thing we're going to do is just adhere it to the card. I'll move this off to the side. The card is just a normal 8.5 by 11. Fold it in half. I always like to make the creases really pronounced. And then this will just get glued on top. Should have 1/2 inch of clearance on all 4 edges. And then we'll place the battery in. I don't want to glue it down too much on this section, but I do just want to tape the battery in place. When I'm taping the battery in place, I want to tape it in such a way that the switch is not in a position where it's going to touch the tape, it's just going to touch the battery. So instead of using one big piece to tape it down, I use a couple smaller pieces to tape it down. And if I press on it, you can see it still works. So a nice easy thing to do is to fold them together and make this pop up. And when we apply the glue, it's pretty much everywhere that the Christmas tree is not, and I like to leave a little space around here, around the battery. And you can decorate the front, you can decorate the tree, add a little press here sign to make it light up, and maybe a little made with love. And that's how you make a LED pop-up Christmas card. If you want to turn this off, all you have to do is lift and just pull that roll up and close it. And that's why I like to keep that not taped down.